What is up, creators? This is Tom. Welcome back to another video. I hope you are all doing well. It is a really gloomy day here in Brighton, so I thought, what could we do on the channel today? And what I landed on is I thought we could take a nice chilled look at Apple ProRaw. If you don't know, Apple ProRaw is Apple's new photo file format for their iPhone 12 Pro and iPhone 12 Pro Max. Since I have the iPhone 12 Pro Max here, I thought it was a good opportunity to compare the photos and the files that you get out of this camera to something like the Canon EOS R. Lots of you loved my comparison video that I did on the EOS R to the iPhone 12 Pro. So I thought this time what we would do is actually take a look at the sort of file output and how much you can play around with this new file format, which is an amazing addition to this iPhone line and to something, you know, a little bit more professional, the file formats that a pro would expect to work with. So yesterday I took this phone out shooting with a couple of my friends, got a couple of shots in different lighting situations so we could really put the files through their paces, see how much we can recover, see how much we can edit the files and see what they look like to get something hopefully a lot more impressive than you would normally get just by hitting snap on this phone. First of all, sadly, like I mentioned earlier, sadly this feature is only available on the iPhone 12 Pro, iPhone 12 Max. So if you do have an older phone, unfortunately I think due to the sort of computational processing that is actually going on to capture these files, they're only available on the newer iPhones with the newer processor. Okay, so actually to turn this on and make this feature available within your phone, so open up the settings app and scroll down until you come across the camera. Within here, you go into formats, and then that toggle at the bottom, Apple ProRaw, that's when you want to make sure it is turned on. Next, a weird little quirk of this functionality is because you can see that this little button up here, the sort of RAW toggle, you need to press that every time you open the camera app to start shooting RAW. So you can toggle that on and it will sort of remain on shooting RAW for the remainder of the amount of time that you open and close. But I actually got caught out a couple of times with this RAW functionality turning off in between when I lock the phone, change scenes, that type of thing. So unfortunately, it doesn't look like you can sort of just keep it on indefinitely on the camera app. Bit of a shame. Hopefully they let you change that in the future. But for now, yeah, just make sure that you are actually shooting RAW. Okay, so in terms of editing these files once you've taken them, there are a couple of ways to do that. So the first is using the normal Photos app, and you can see that when you have taken one of these photos, you can see the little RAW file or raw markup here, and you can literally just edit these directly inside the Photos application. And there's a few ways to do this. You know, you can mess around with the highlights, bring back some of the detail in the highlights and the shadows if you wanted to do that. The only thing with editing directly in the iPhone sort of standard camera app is, personally, I think it's a bit restrictive, and correct me if I'm wrong, you might get some corrections in the comments here, but I don't think you could do things like selective color adjustments or more advanced photo editing. So I like to use Adobe Lightroom. I've loaded in a couple of the photos that we took out from the shoot here into Adobe Lightroom CC, and then in a minute we will actually edit some of these photos on a computer and compare them to a more professional file format. But you can see inside the Adobe Lightroom CC, we actually get proper controls here, and we can, so this is the sort of standard exposure of the shot, and you can see we can recover a lot more data than we were doing before, just by expanding the functionality of the actual camera app that we're using. And using Adobe Lightroom CC, we can also do things like proper color adjustments. We can go into maybe the blues here and really make the sky pop a lot more, so that you can see that we can bring back some of the detail here, and like I said, really make the sky pop, and you can see that that's a significant difference to the original image there, and you just wouldn't get that amount of control, one, in the normal camera app, but two, shooting something like standard JPEG. Okay guys, before we carry on with this video, I do want to briefly talk about an online service I use all the time as a self-taught professional. This is not a sponsored segment, and this is quite important because I think by not doing this as a sponsorship, I can actually talk about products that I thoroughly enjoy, thoroughly find useful, and really, really recommend to other creatives and creators. So the service that I want to talk about today's video is Skillshare. Skillshare is an amazing online community of learning and courses. For one monthly fee, you get unlimited access to an incredible wide variety of resources. Obviously, YouTube is free and is an amazing tool for learning online content creation. Skillshare is, I would say, the step up from that in terms of everything is a bit more produced and you're able to learn a skill thoroughly by getting really involved in a course that's actually been thought about, and you can spend sort of a couple of hours digesting a course from one creator on a specific topic. So in this video, we're talking about mobile photography. If you wanted to improve your mobile photography, you could take this course by Sean Dalton, where he actually goes through Adobe Lightroom CC on an iPhone and how to get amazing pictures out of this specifically. And this course is, a couple of hours in length. It's really in detail and thoroughly recommended. Like I said, this is not a sponsored segment, but if you are interested in checking out Skillshare, I will leave a link down below in the description. If you click that link, that actually goes towards supporting me and supporting the channel. Right now, you can actually get 40% off an annual membership with Skillshare by clicking that link. There is no commitment. You can even try a free trial and just binge as much Skillshare as you want with that free trial. So thoroughly recommended. Check it out. Back to the video. Yo guys, so we're at the computer now. I've got 3 files taken on iPhone, 3 files of 3 similar shots taken on the EOS R. So you can see these were the camera shots here. This one, and this one. And then these were the iPhone shots, this one, and this one. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna play around sort of individually with these files and see what the editing experience is like and how much you can push and pull these files. So we'll start off with the camera file for the EOS R for this shot. And the first thing I'm gonna do is go into the lens corrections and add a profile correction to get rid of some of the vignetting. And then what we're gonna do is I'm gonna boost up the exposure, bring down the highlights, and boost the shadows on this image a bit. Then what I'm gonna do is basically give it a bit more saturation, a bit more pop in the blues, and we will do that by just dragging the blue saturation file up. I'm actually gonna bring down the luminance as well, just to make that sky pop a bit more. And yeah, you can see the amount of control you have from these professional files, like the image isn't particularly noisy, got a bit of chromatic aberration around here near Basil's hair, but apart from that, it's looking pretty good. It doesn't break down, like the files are super nice coming out of the EOS R. So now let's go over to the iPhone and let's apply a similar sort of correction. Let's see how much we can push and pull these images. First of all, what I would just raise is that you can see the difference in terms of the shots from the Canon, the professional camera, to the iPhone. And that basically is because Apple is applying with the ProRaw files a sort of base level of correction of edit. So it basically is trying to give you the control to be able to edit the files, but it is also trying to make them look as good as possible straight out of camera. And you can see that this shot here to this shot here, like this is a better shot if you were to take them at face value, but we can obviously play around a bit more with the Canon shot. On this file, we will try and match a similar shot. So I'm going to pull the highlights down. You can see that we're not able to pull them down as dramatically as we could using the Canon. And then we'll boost up the shadows. And there's a lot of shadow detail there. That is pretty impressive. But I'm going to boost that up just a little bit. And we're going to bring down some of the texture and the clarity. And I find that on an iPhone shot will make things a little bit more natural, because the iPhone does tend to over sharpen a lot of the images. We'll go into the HSL again and apply some saturation and dim the blue down. And again, it is pretty impressive how close we can get. So this is the original file, and it's pretty dramatic the amount that you can play around with these photos. It's nice and impressive. That's the before and after for the camera shot. And then that's the before and after for the iPhone shot. So it is pretty impressive. The next thing that you can do is you can apply actual Lightroom presets instead of just sort of applying them over a JPEG like you would almost like a filter. So let's reset this image here and apply, these are just some film simulation filters that I got from Really Nice Images. So I'm actually going to add this Kodak Portra 400 to this image, and then it's definitely making it a bit too sort of compressed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually brighten up the shadows there. And you can see the difference that makes, and I'm actually going to dim down the highlights ever so slightly. But that is a pretty cool shot coming out of an iPhone. You can see and that type of effect just wouldn't have been possible using anything other than Apple ProRaw. It really is quite impressive the amount of control we have. Let's go to something a little bit lower light here. And you can immediately see, if we zoom in, you can immediately see how badly the iPhone performs in terms of low light. If we take this, let's go on to the Canon shot, and you can see that the amount of noise in that image is significantly less, and we'll have an easier time processing that out than the iPhone. Like, the noise is much larger, many more artifacts in there. But let's do the same thing. So let's boost the exposure. We're going to dim the highlights a bit. I'm going to try and recover these shadows a little bit. We're going to apply a crop in, and let's do the same thing. Let's decrease the amount of clarity in this image, and I'm going to pull back the texture as well. That's starting to look a bit better, and we're going to go in the detail slider and add a bit of noise reduction to this image. And there we go. Things are definitely looking a bit better. You can tell that this is not a fantastic image in terms of the lighting, and we do have much more control on the camera, so we can do a sort of a comparative edit here. You can just immediately see how much more editing control we've got in this camera shot here. But if we were to just do a very, very quick edit, like I said, it is a pretty significant difference when you introduce things like low light situations. But let's throw that filter on there. Let's increase the shadows just a little bit. And I don't think personally you'd be able to get a look like that out of the iPhone camera. However, overall, I'm extremely impressed with these Apple ProRaw files. I think that it's an amazing feature that they've introduced on the iPhone. The only thing I would look forward to is the inclusion of a better editing functionality for these files. So you didn't necessarily have to use something third party, but overall the third party apps exist, so it's not exactly a hindrance to, you know, download Adobe Lightroom and really play around with those files. So overall, thoroughly impressed. If you have an iPhone 12 or iPhone 12 Pro Max, give it a try. Set up RAW on your iPhone, give it a play and see how you get on. I would love to hear your experiences. Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments about these files, this photo editing functionality, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.